so much for joining us. I am so excited to have you guys here tonight. I'm excited every night, honestly, because you know what this means? We get another author event. We get another chance to hang out virtually with our community and just celebrate and talk about books and different forms of storytelling. And I just want to first off say thank you. You know, Tattered Cover Bookstore is a local independent bookstore here in Denver, and we would not be able to be doing these events without you guys. You know, this is a huge deal for us because we are such a community space in Denver. If you're from the Denver metro area, you've probably been into a Tattered Cover and have been able to, as Mary, one of our guests tonight, talks about, just smell the books and be able to enjoy the atmosphere. Well, that's a little hard to do right now in the world that we're in. And in the future, our hope is that that's going to change. But right now, we're just really grateful that you're able to join us in a virtual online community so that one day we all can be back together in person. So for those of you who might be joining us that don't know about Tattered Cover, you might not live in the Denver metro area, welcome. Thank you for coming. Tattered Cover is a local independent bookstore in the Denver metro area with 4 locations. We've been around for 50 years, since 1971. This year is our 50th birthday, which is incredible to even think about for a bookstore. And I love the bookstore. I'm a big fan. I'm Denver native, lived here for a long time. And a lot of people know Tattered Cover really well. And so if you are in the Denver metro area, you are more than welcome to come and visit us as long as you're wearing your mask over your mouth and your nose. You can come in for the store for about 90 minutes or so and visit us. But if you're like me, don't want to go shopping out in public right now, you'd rather stay in your pajamas, you can 100% do that and shop online at tatteredcover.com. That also goes for you out there that may not be able to travel to Denver right now and visit, but tatteredcover.com is the place to shop. So I encourage you guys to log on and do that. Thank you. Sorry about those. I want to also let you know that closed captioning is enabled for those who might need it. The way to access that is by hovering your mouse over the screen you're watching me on right now. There's a black bar at the bottom. There's a button that says CC on it, and that should enable closed captioning for those who might want it or need it. I want to also let you know about a couple of upcoming events you might find interesting. We have Umi Grigsby, her new book, Empowered Health, is about racism in the health industry, specifically towards women. And that's going to be on Monday, February 8th. And we have the very next day, Nate and Kaylee Klemp, who are local authors from Boulder, who are going to be talking about their new book, The 80/80 Marriage. And that's on Tuesday, the 9th. There's plenty of events we've got going on here at tatteredcover.com/events. That's where you can see all of them. But the event we're talking about tonight, I'm very excited for. Just even chatting with these ladies right beforehand, it's going to be an amazing conversation. So we have Laurie Ruettimann in conversation with Mary Faulkner tonight, talking about Laurie's new book, Betting on You. A little bit about our hosts this evening. We have Mary Faulkner, is a talent strategist and business leader with more than 15 years of experience in helping organizations achieve their goals. Mary landed in HR by way of learning and development, and then made her way to every part of HR at one time or another. Mary's a principal at IAHR, a consulting firm that helps guide organizations through business transformation. In addition to her work with companies, Mary authors a leadership development blog called Surviving Leadership, and is a regular contributor to different publications, including HRExaminer.com, ERE.net, and has also written for other publications. Mary is the co-chair of the Denver chapter of Disrupt HR, a new way to network and think about people and work, and the co-chair of HROS, an open source approach to human resources. And then our author of the hour, Laurie Ruettimann, as a former human resources leader turned writer, entrepreneur, and speaker. CNN recognized her as one of the top 5 career advisors in the United States, and her work has been featured on NPR, The New Yorker, USA Today, The Wall Street Journal, and Vox. She frequently delivers keynote speeches at business and management events around the world and hosts the popular podcast Punk Rock HR. She lives with her husband and cats in Raleigh, North Carolina. And it's my honor to welcome tonight both Mary and Laurie. We're going to have them join me here in just a moment. Here they go. Hi, Laurie.
Hey, how's it going? You could call me Ludi anytime. That's cool. No worries.
So apparently I'm not allowed to unlock my video right now.
Oh no, let me fix that for you.
It's probably just as well, let's be honest.
No,
we're having too much fun already.
Ludi and I are thrilled.
That's great. I'm love that that's what it is now. So Laurie Ruettimann, would you like to tell us about your book here?
I would. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for taking some time out of your evening to talk about the book, Betting on You. You know, I wrote it for all of you out there, individuals who are really hardworking, inspired, wanting to do great things in the world, really aiming to work at the intersection of your purpose and passion, but you're caught up in a system that doesn't benefit you or that is just hostile to you, and you don't know what to do next. Sometimes you think about opting out, starting your own things. Sometimes you just think about staying in bed all day. This book is absolutely for you to help you think about what it means to take responsibility of your life, to focus on your well-being, to always learn something new because all learning is worthwhile. And then finally, to learn how to take a risk, just like executives, just like your boss, just like these big old corporations that make a lot of money, so that finally you can come out ahead. You deserve it. I believe in you. I've been talking about this for a really long time, and I'm honored to have my friend Mary Faulkner here tonight. We promise not to be HR nerds. Is that true, Mary?
Yes, of course. I don't even know how to be an HR nerd, let's be honest.
I can't say that about myself.
So, yes, I love Laurie. So this is why I'm so excited to be here. I loved the book. My dog tried to eat the book earlier today. I mean, that's just how much it's been ingrained in the family. But so one of the things that I love about Laurie's book, honestly, and we'll talk about the book, I promise, and about Laurie. But what's great about it is it's so much like Laurie's just sitting down across from you and telling you exactly what she thinks about what you need to do in a way that, I mean, I think of the countless conversations that we've had over the years, and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm pretty sure Laurie yelled at me about that once. So that's why I just loved reading the book. So thank you so much for letting me be a part of this conversation. So I thought we would start by kind of explaining how we met, because it's always fun to learn about that. So I think, first of all, we always blame everything on Jennifer McClure.
Yes.
Or I do.
Yes.
Because I worked with Jennifer at a firm. She was a consultant with our firm, and she and I came to be friends. But through Jennifer, I had an opportunity to meet Laurie, and I think it was at Chicago SHRM.
It was at some event when people used to get together and focus on learning and drinking.
Drinking. There's a lot of drinking.
Yes, knits us together.
Yeah, but I want to say it was like 2012-ish or something. But it was a fun conversation. I'm not going to go into what was the details of the conversation, but Laurie, you have been heard. But through the years, I feel very grateful that Laurie has basically adopted me along with others. I'm like most introverts. I need an extrovert to adopt me. And Jennifer was that introvert or that extrovert that kind of introduced me to all these different people. So always great. So Laurie, you kind of explained why you wrote the book. So why do you feel, though, that really focusing on your own well-being and your own needs is going to make work better?
Really good question, Mary. You know, I started out this journey of writing a book by reading over 30 self-help and business books. And I read books by Napoleon Hill and Tony Robbins and Mel Robbins, you know, the whole Robbins. I covered them all. And what I realized is that these books that try to teach us how to fix work really are rooted in this 1937 book called Think and Grow Rich, where it's kind of like The Secret, where if you just think it, if you just hope it enough, it's going to happen. And I thought, oh my God, I spent all these years in corporate America thinking and hoping that something would break for me. And then when I got there, when I got the job I wanted, I would ask, is that all there is? And it was like, yeah, Laurie, that's all there is, because that's all you are. And so when I started to really reverse engineer this, that's when I realized some things needed to change in my life. And it happened at a night in the airport. And we can talk about that, Mary, if you'd like, because that was a night where I looked at myself quite frankly and said, boy, you got to work on some things. And it started with well-being.
Yeah. And that was a great story in the book. And it really ties into, I think, I always think of, it's a Buckaroo Banzai quote from a movie. So sorry, everybody, but no matter where you go, there you are. Yeah. And you are the one common denominator in everything and every job that you have. So I remember a little story about myself. I remember when I was getting an MBA, I hated it. I was like, why am I getting an MBA? This is terrible. And I needed to figure out what I wanted to do next. And so I went to the career services group for the first time in my life in my mid-20s. I had no idea what I was doing. And they made me go through this whole process of looking at all the jobs I've had in the past and why I left. And like, it really came down to, well, it was me. It had, it was my attitude, or it was my
Right.
inability to adapt, or whatever it was. So that moment of sort of personal clarity of understanding what role you play in your work history and your work experience, that really drove home in your book. So let's delve into that story of what you really decided when you took a good hard look at whatever it was that you were eating that day, or whatever travel you were doing, that really kind of prompted you to say, I have to take control of my life.
Yeah. So I was working for a small company that maybe nobody's heard of. It's called Pfizer. They haven't been in the news or anything. Nobody's heard of them. So I'm working for this behemoth drug company that, quite frankly, had grown too big, grown through acquisition, and we had to lay people off. And because I am 5 feet tall and very petite and very blonde at the time, it was my job to go all over the world and tell people that they were losing. And there were times when that was actually kind of fun, which bothered me because I had a corporate Amex card. But for the most part, it was really depressing work. And although I did it and did it with dignity, it took a toll on my sleep, on my relationships. I felt very alone and isolated. And I didn't quite understand how an organization that always put itself first, and that's what Pfizer did, that's what companies do. They always create a budget that makes sure that they can exist tomorrow. That's how they stay in business. How that business could just not take care of its people. There was some cognitive dissonance there. And so one night at an airport, I was feeling quite depressed and I had back pain and I'm in between flights, and like all stories that happen when there's this moment of awareness, it's late at night at an airport and I'm drinking Pepsi and eating Starburst for dinner by choice, and wondering why I feel terrible. And I'm flipping through an Us Weekly magazine because God forbid I learn anything new, right? My brain was fried. I just wanted to check out. And as I'm reading this magazine and looking at all these celebrities who have a better life than I have and live in a better world than I live in, I thought to myself, oh my God, I can do better in this world. And I read this story about a celebrity named Courtney Love who suddenly had it all in this world. And they were attributing her good fortune, her good looks, everything to going and getting weight loss surgery in Mexico, allegedly. And I thought, that's it. If Courtney Love can do it, I can do it too. So I'm going to turn my life around and I'm going to be like Courtney Love. I'm going to take control of my well-being, get rid of this back pain, sleep, by going to Mexico and having weight loss surgery. So yeah, that's where the story starts. And not that that's the right answer for everybody.
Right.
It might not have been the right answer for me. I had to bribe my way in, and the book talks about that story. But it certainly was the beginning of me rediscovering who I was, which was, an artist, a writer, an athlete, a runner, someone who was competitive, and someone who loved the world of work, but didn't love working in human resources and had a choice.
Yeah, and I love that story, especially the sketch experience of going down to Tijuana. Side note, the part that I love the most is you had the same childhood memories that I did as Tijuana, because my grandpa was in Escondido and we would go across the border, and you remember this wonderful, oh, there's a little marketplace and it's so safe. And then when you explained what it was like now, it's like, oh, okay. Good to know. Good to know.
Yeah. I certainly went down at a time, as you'll read in the book, when the FBI and the State Department was advising Americans not to go because there were a rash of kidnappings and drug cartels had taken over. And when I went down there, I realized that, I had this amazing medical care there, and I did have a good experience because I could pay for it. And that kind of inequity just further fueled my passion for social justice and giving people opportunities. So, it was a really eye-opening experience. And also, I didn't quite weigh enough for weight loss surgery. But one of the lessons in my book is that when you have money, it opens doors. Don't let rich people, especially executives, tell you you can be happy earning $75,000 a year, because they're earning more. And so I went down to Mexico, was told, you don't quite weigh enough for weight loss surgery. And I'm like, how about now? Here's $100. No, how about now? Here's $200. And suddenly I weighed enough. I mean, it was a really amazing experience at a very micro level about how money moves markets. And I have carried that lesson with me throughout my entire life. I've since then bribed my way into restaurants, bribed my way into rooms that I shouldn't be in. And for better or for worse, money definitely makes an impact in this world.
Yeah. And I mean, to your point with the weight loss isn't going to be what it is for everyone. Just find your Tijuana trip, I think, is the message that I took away from it. There, it could be, maybe you need to get more sleep, or maybe you need to stop drinking so much caffeine, or, I think at one point weight loss was part of it, but it was also like, I'm not moving enough. I am sitting at a desk constantly. You'll notice that Laurie and I are both standing. Because we've probably been working all day and we have standing desks and we're making this a thing. So whatever it might be, I think that was a really strong message that just it's kind of one of those things of like, you are going to hit rock bottom at some job, and something is going to be, what is it that you can control? And I thought that message was just really, really strong.
Thank you. And it's not like I had weight loss surgery and then, first of all, was like screaming to the roof about it and telling everybody about it, and then quit my job at Pfizer and everything was totally amazing. No, I had to work on a plan, which involved me going to therapy. And Mary, to your beautiful story before about really understanding who you are and what you're all about, I did that as well. I saved money so that I could go out on my own. And I talk a little bit about wealth and wealth building in the book and the lies that we tell employees about their compensation. So I had to kind of grapple with all of this. But once I got in a good place and I felt like I could take a risk on myself, the fundamental building blocks were there. My well-being was better, my sleep was better, my attitude was better, my mental acuity was stronger, because nothing dampens your cognitive ability like Pepsi and Starburst. So just getting rid of that in my life made me feel
hurts my soul.
I prefer it. I'm from the Midwest. What can I say?
I can't help you there. Yeah. I can't help you there. Well, and that kind of is a good entryway into that piece of, it is the first step of things that you can do to gain control of a job that you're just not loving at the moment. And what I really appreciate about your book is that you do acknowledge not everybody is in a position where they can just say, screw it, I'm out. We all have that moment where we wish we could, but there are just some realities that you have to live with. So if you are in a job that you can't afford to quit right now, put together a plan to get out. One of the things that you really brought up, and I like this, and so I wanted to highlight this, was the idea of start to learn something new. Yes. Or find something that helps you engage outside of work that will keep you engaged. So, in my case, we've known each other for a while. I had a job that I was just like, this is soul crushing and I can't stand it. So I was lucky enough to be able to be like, I'm going to start writing a blog, or I'm going to start being on Twitter more often, or I'm going to start speaking more. That became my what to learn more, and kind of this is my outlet outside of my job so I don't go insane. Yeah. So what are some other things that you have instructed people to go try to do to find ways out of their just terrible day-to-day lives?
Well, I have to tell you, Mary, it's been a joy to kind of watch your journey from, disaffected worker to now like perpetually fine consultant. You're fine. The world is fine. We're in COVID. It's going to be okay. I love the journey that you've been on. And it's not just me that believes that learning is the central key to really taking control of your life. This is backed up by research at big esteemed universities. Harvard Business School has published a lot of articles about this. If you're not learning, you're not growing. And if you're not growing, you're not thriving. And what's the point? And there are all these studies out there that say the happiest and most engaged workers are learning. But I don't care if you're a happy and engaged worker. I want you to be a happy and engaged human being. So you can learn in a variety of different ways. All learning is worthwhile. Unfortunately, Mary, at our jobs, we always focus on the thing we're doing today and maybe tomorrow. But our employers don't ever care about who we're going to be in 5 years. So if you're innately curious about something, we live in the golden age of learning. Universities are expensive, certifications, degrees cost money, but University of YouTube is free. Universities offer a lot of continuous learning programs out there that are free as well. So if you're someone who, has a secret dream to be, I don't know, a dental hygienist, and there are people out there who dream of this job, you can start that journey while you're still fully employed. Go learn, go take a couple classes, go be curious. Or if you just want to know things like, I love cats and dogs, and I'm a newly minted dog foster. So right now I'm watching all these videos about dog training and like dog behavior because I want to make sure I don't screw up any foster dogs. So there's always an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to grow. And one of the things I talk about in the book is that if it doesn't get scheduled, it doesn't happen. So it's really important. Executives put time on their calendars to learn. I don't know why you don't do that. I mean, if we only acted like the executives of our own lives, even 2% more, we would make such strong incremental change. So I encourage everybody out there, you have plenty of time to watch this, and this is a form of learning. Do more of it, put it on your calendar, make it a goal, and that way it'll happen.
Yeah. And to that point, I know I speak to a lot of people in jobs that just say, I'm so burned out, I don't even want to think when I get home. And so it's one of those things of you're leaving your best at work, and that's not where it necessarily needs to be. And what I've noticing, so I've been looking at the reviews and I've been looking at the comments and the chatter about your book and everything. And the thing that really strikes me is a lot of people have kind of caught on to that idea of being a slacker at work.
Yes.
And I wanted to talk about this because I think the word slacker was an interesting choice, and I think it can polarize people.
Sure.
And I remember you told me once that you're like, just be a slacker. Because I was really frustrated. You're just like, oh, just give like 80%. They're not going to notice. And I was like, no, I can't be a slacker. I don't know how, I'm just not built that way. And I think it might have been the word, but the idea of it's right. You're giving yourself time to recharge yourself. Don't leave everything at work. Give yourself time to learn or to engage in different things or to get home and not be exhausted. So what are some of the other ways that you have told people to embrace your inner slacker at work and not worry about it?
Yeah, that is such a polarizing word, which is why I chose it. Nobody ever makes a decision in their lives based on like the middle path, right? You got to be bold with your choices. So I believe people ought to be a slacker. And so how I define slacker is someone who gets the job done right first time and doesn't think about it again. So when someone comes to me and tells me they're working 80 hours a week, I'm like, there is something fundamentally broken within you, because there are just-in-time principles, there are total quality management principles that if you were really following good working principles, you wouldn't be working 80 hours a week anyway. But the point is that if you're a slacker, you get your job done and you have space and grace to do other things. And by investing in your personal life, you elevate your professional life. I fundamentally believe that. So if you can get your job done, no one's watching you, in 32 hours instead of 40, do that and use that extra time in a very scheduled, structured way to do more of this, to do more of learning, or to actually take that PTO that's been banking up because you feel like you have to show up every day on these very long Zoom calls. In the book, I talk about a woman that I coached who was perpetually, and she's an executive, perpetually bothered by emergencies in the evening. And it's because her team didn't have rules of the road around what really constituted an emergency. And she just could not say no. She was a people pleaser, a high performing people pleaser. So she would take calls and Slack messages and texts all night long and never got anything done. To your point, Mary, totally burned out. When I said be a slacker, she's like, oh, no way, I don't have that built in within me. But it's really about boundary setting and taking control of your own schedule. And I'm not telling you to say no to your CEO when he pings you at 8 o'clock at night, but you practice in the small moments so you can get good at those big moments. So when it's a peer who's constantly blowing up your phone, you can ask, is this really an emergency? Do you really need me right now? Or can this wait? If it's someone on Zoom who's just rambling, step in and end the meeting. Practice in the small moments. And that way, when a big moment does show up, you can absolutely nail it. That's what being a slacker is all about.
Yeah, I'm still struggling, man. I'm telling you.
Mary, I know you. You're not. You've got plenty of time in your life now.
That's true. That's true. And going back to the learning piece, and you talk a lot about the clients that you've had throughout, your career and the people that you've helped out. But you also speak to the idea of mentors. And I think that's an important thing to talk about because not everybody can afford a high-powered executive coach or any kind of that. I mean, if you can, I recommend that you at least have a conversation with one just to kind of organize your thoughts. But if you can't, mentorship can be a really great way to go about that. And I think it can be a very powerful tool. And it seems like you've seen that throughout your career as well.
Well, there are two types of mentors, formal and informal, and it's very difficult to get a formal mentor right now because everybody's busy. How do you get someone to carve out time out of their schedule? Well, for once, you could actually go to your HR department and ask for help. Because what happened in the book is that someone did not come to the HR department, did not ask for help, totally blew it and called her boss an ass bag, which I don't even know what ass bag is. And also, it's not that big of a deal, but everybody made a big deal out of it. Tons of drama, because what else do we do at work? And I begged not to fire this woman because she was talented. I'm like, let me take this on and find her a mentor. And that mentor was another woman who had been in a situation where she was the only woman among men, and the two of them connected, and we saved this young woman's job. So you could proactively go to HR and say, I'm frustrated. Could you connect me with a mentor? And your HR lady would love that. She would love it because she's not doing, negative work. She's finally doing something positive. But if you can't find a formal mentor, you can find someone informally. For years, I followed a business journalist by the name of Susie Welch. And she's terrific on CNBC, really inspired me. And I'd written to her a few times, never heard back. And I'm like, that's fine. I'm going to steal the good stuff that I love from her. I'm going to watch and I'm going to learn. And whatever Susie Welch does, I'm going to try to do that in my job and in my life. And it paid off. And when I was writing this book, I thought I'm going to include that anecdote. And you know what? I should probably reach out and tell Susie Welch that she's been informally mentoring me and that I'm going to put her in my book. I didn't expect to hear back from her. And not only did I hear back from her, but she endorsed the book. So these are
fantastic.
Long-term relationships that pay dividends. You don't have to make a one-to-one connection with someone to be your mentor. Just steal the good stuff like I did. It pays off.
Yeah, I'm constantly amazed at the generosity of people out there. I mean, throughout my career too, I've been lucky enough to just, I might be following somebody on Twitter and I might just reach out and say, do you have a minute to talk? And I would say 9 times out of 10, they'd love to just chat with you. You're not asking them for a job. You're not asking them for, something that's overly done. People like to tell you how good they are at certain things. So ask them about that. How did you get that job? Or what do you think about this? Or, if you're thinking about going out on your own as a consultant, go talk to some consultants and just say, and you're not asking them, how did you do it? It's like, why did you do it? Or what should I be worried about? And what am I stupid to do this? All these types of things. But don't be afraid to ask, I would say. I'm lucky enough to have a group of friends that, we kind of call it, it's called Team Faulkner, go Team Faulkner.
Wait, do you want to tell people what you did in order to really survive? Because you created what is essentially a personal board of directors.
I did. I had read it. I don't even remember where I read it. I think it was in a Harvard Business Review article. And I thought, you know what, I need a board of directors. And so what I did is I just looked at my circle of friends and acquaintances and people who knew me in every walk of life, whether it was from work or from personal or just online, just the conference world, whatever it was. And I just said, will you be on my board of directors? I'm stuck. I don't know what to do next, or I need somebody to bounce ideas off of, or I need to find people who will call me out on my bullshit when they need to. So I was really kind of intentional about thinking through how I would pull together on this team. And thankfully, everybody agreed to be on it. And it's gone on, I want to say like 5+ years now. I mean, we've kind of moved beyond the immediate need that caused the creation of Team Faulkner. But what's been great about it that I love is it's become almost like this group mentoring. So when anybody on Team Faulkner has a question, it's a Facebook page today. We might have to move it to a different platform at some point, but it really is this, somebody will drop in and say, hey, this is happening. What do you guys think? And it's just been really cool to see it continue beyond its initial creation. And I mean, everybody needs a safety net. And in some ways, I would say that a board of directors can be your safety net because it is a safe place to go and get that feedback that most people don't get on a daily basis.
What I love about the group is something that I've seen play out with mentors, that if you pick the right mentor, you'll have a good relationship with that mentor for about 12 to 18 months. And then that mentor becomes a friend. And in your group, in Team Faulkner, what it's become is a hype circle. It's like a bunch of people who are connected loosely sometimes, but definitely connected, and we hype one another up. And I think everybody needs that as well, because even if you're truly operating at the intersection of passion and purpose, there are going to be tough days where you're like, oh my God, people are idiots and I am miserable. You need that safe space, Mary, that you just talked about, and you need people to hype you up. And I think that's the lesson of the really great thing that you've built. Where's your book on this?
I wrote a blog post about it once, I think.
Yeah, we need more of it, Mary.
We need more of that. It was really great. Well, last thing I want to talk to you about in your book before we turn it over to Q&A. The one thing that I love about you throughout your entire career and the whole time I've known you is that you have a strong voice and you are not afraid to use it. You have a good point of view. If you spoke about the social injustice that you've seen, you will speak out about it. And I love that. I do think it's funny when people try to call you on it and you're like, yeah, I really don't care. But what but what I think is interesting is I think a lot more people would like to be like that, but they might be in an environment where they're scared to do that, or they get attacked if they do. So how would you suggest to people that they start to exercise that voice regardless of what environment they might be in, respectfully if needed, whatever it might be, but how can people develop their own voice?
Gosh, it's such a good question. I didn't develop the voice that I have overnight. This is something that I've been working on for 46 years, but have definitely been working on it since leaving corporate America. And I sympathize with people out there who feel that they're at a precarious moment right now where they feel a certain way, but can't exercise their concerns. They feel like there are injustices happening within their organization, but they can't speak out. So you may not be able to speak out today, but if you feel that way, that you cannot have a voice, if you cannot speak truth to power, you can make a plan to leave. And I write about this in my book. One of my mentors, Bob Sutton, wrote this really fantastic book called The No Asshole Rule. And if you're working in a place that's incongruent with your values, that you don't feel like you can speak up, you're never going to change it. No matter how long you think you can work there, everybody there had a first day. And they're still there. They're still complicit. So it's more likely that you're going to become like them than you're going to change them. So you don't have to quit today, but you should definitely make a plan to find a place that's more congruent with your values. The other thing is, Mary, this Team Faulkner that we've just discussed is a really great way for people to test out their voices, to ask questions that may be a little awkward. And we've had that in our community in Team Faulkner with the rise of, George Floyd and some of the social justice here in America. It's a safe space to really ask some questions and get some answers and some feedback. So don't feel as if you have a voice and you need to get on Twitter and you need to blast it. Try it in the small moments, again, to get good in the moments that matter. That's what I think. I don't know, Mary, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I kind of joke, it's like my life motto is probably just I have opinions. It's usually they're not always expressed in a very good way. So it's one of those things of it's finding the right moments to use that voice and finding the right channels to use that voice. And to your point, you're never going to be in an organization where you 100% match. Your values are your own, not your company's. And so you're just looking for something that's a tolerable match.
Yes.
If you don't fit and you speak up a few times and you get slapped down, I'm with you, get out. But I would also add to that, if you get out, get some others out with you. I have been so grateful with other people have thrown me lifelines out of organizations. I have thrown people lifelines out of organizations. It's like, if you're going to have survivor guilt, take as many with you out of there as you can. And I mean, I've worked for organizations where we have like support groups of people who used to work there. And we're just like, oh, so-and-so's trying to get out. Where can we find them a job? And I mean, it's been 10 years since I worked there. Yeah. So these needs run deep. So use your voice as you can, as often as you can, and lift others up who have the same voice. I'm with you on that, 100%.
So good, Mary. Oh my God, I love that. What a way to end. And I know it's time for Q&A, if I'm not mistaken.
You are. That's right. Thank you both so much for that. It's always so nice when moderators know each other too. It's really fun how they can play off each other. So thank you for that. We are doing the audience Q&A, and some of you have already been active in the chat with your comments and everything. And so now is the time to ask your questions of Laurie and Mary about the book, about HR, past experiences, how to start your own personal board of directors, which I don't know. I kind of feel like that's there's a title of Mary's book in there somewhere.
Agree. She's a superstar.
Right?
I always bring talented people with me to these things. Come on, Mary, you're
Well, and you can tell. So why don't we start off with a question of why a book? You know, you've done so many speakers, conferences, one-on-ones, counseling. What was it about a book that was so appealing to you, and why did you feel the need to write this particular one?
Yeah, why a book during an insurrection and an impeachment and an inauguration? I mean, I could have done it in a lot of different ways. And I actually had been doing this, talking about these topics, telling people, why not you? You know, you've got a dumb CEO who's making 237 times what you earn. Why do you have imposter syndrome, right? I've been doing this for years. I think one, I wanted to reach more people at scale. I think that was really important. And number two, I identify as a writer. That's who I am in my core. It doesn't always pay the bills. It doesn't always really make me feel great. Writing is an act of torture at times, but that's who I am. And so the challenge was there for me to write a book that was bigger than just an academic book or an HR book. I wanted to write something that was totally truthful and honest about the world of work and a little bit different. There are no promises that you're going to get your next great job. There are no promises that you're going to get a raise, although I do talk about all those things in the book. But I just wanted to give people an honest understanding of what work is and hopefully hit them upside the head with that book. That's my goal. So yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, I'm sure lots of people are going to feel very inspired and you know, hopefully won't have to always journey to Mexico to get that change in their moment.
The point of the chapter is definitely stop before you go to some sketchy weight loss clinic. You don't need that. And if you do need that, you've got my full support. I'm there with you.
Awesome.
No judgment. No judgment.
Can you talk about mid-career changes and finding a whole new path to HR? Is it possible to break in at age 45? It's a fascinating field, and I wish I'd gotten here earlier.
Wow, somebody wants to break into HR instead of breaking out. That's amazing. Well, I'm going to be quiet for a second. Mary, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, if you talk to the average HR person, they ended up in HR is what I would say. Yes, there are some amazing HR academic programs out there. You can get your degree in HR, but I would say that the vast majority of people who are in HR, I joke about it, we Forrest Gump our way through our careers. I was a history major with a physics minor. Clearly, I was made to be an HR person.
Yeah.
But there are all these ways that you get in there. So if you want to get into HR, you absolutely can. You might have to start a little bit lower down, but really think about it. If you're a teacher, you can get in there potentially from a learning and development standpoint. If you are in business, oh my gosh, HR departments, especially at Fortune 200 companies, they love business people who want to be in HR because they want to build that credibility within their HR department. So it's about talking to people who are currently in HR, looking at roles, using your network, and really asking, how can I get into HR? You won't get probably a director level position right at the beginning. So maybe reset some of those expectations. But if you perform, get in through recruiting, get in through benefits, get in through compensation. All of these are great ways to get into HR. And eventually you will be pulled into any of those departments that you have interest in. So I say go for it if you really want to, but talk to more HR people and make sure you want to.
Yeah, that mid-career change though, Mary, is always the sketchy thing, right? Because people are
it's hard.
Family, I've got a mortgage or whatever, I'm old, I can't do this. And I think one of the interesting things, if you can start to peel apart your motivation and understand why you want to make the change, maybe it would lead you to a new career, or maybe it'll just lead you to new hobbies and new friends. But I think when people make this assumption that I want to break into anything, marketing, sales, I want to go back to school, I want to go work at Tattered cover, right? Some research is really required, not just of the industry, but of yourself to know why you want to do these things. So I would just say, get real curious about your motivation and understand your why.
Yeah, that's a great,
Understand your why. I like that.
I'm stealing that from Simon Sinek, but he's not going to mind.
That's okay. Can you address salary issues related to switching careers? I feel like every inspirational story out there about career changers is about a former attorney or a finance pro with money. How can you talk to that?
Yeah, it is. So one of the real hard things in this world is that when you start over, you start from the bottom.
Mhm.
And there's no real pathway to, making sure that you earn what you earned in your previous job by doing something new. So for me, when I started over, which I did in my 30s and became a writer and a speaker and an entrepreneur, I did that because I had been saving and I understood the realities of the marketplace. So I left Pfizer with a severance package. And in my book, I teach people how to ask for severance. It's not guaranteed, it's not always going to work, but I've taught it to others in my consulting practice, so I know it's effective. So the way to leave is not only to have a plan for your career, but to have a financial plan. And there are amazing books out there like The Financial Diet that can help you do this. But having a little bit of money in your pocket enables you to make better choices. And chapter 4 is all about how you can make better choices by having that cash in your back pocket and what to do if you don't.
Mhm.
Great.
I agree. I mean, just to tack onto that, it's that element of approach it like you would if you were going to go out on your own. It's the same thing. How much runway do you have if you are in a relationship and you share bills with a partner or a spouse or a wife or whatever it might be? Really look at how much runway do we really have and what can we do? Because you don't want to make a choice based out of fear, and you don't want to make a choice based out of complete fantasy. So if you want to do a new career, you got to be able to do it for more than 2 months and then give up. So give yourself that space.
Good advice.
Absolutely. So Laurie, you talk a lot about Mexico and an airport, but I think something flipped for you in your last days in Kalamazoo. Where did you find the courage to take the approach you did after Pfizer?
Real interesting. Someone going old school in my history there.
She says.
So, it's funny how things happen. I was living in a town called Kalamazoo, Michigan, because my husband was working there. And so I was based there and flying all around the world doing my job. And I think there's something right. I mean, I had my surgery. I went down to Mexico and I stayed at Pfizer for an extended period of time, but I also gave myself time off to be able to, in between becoming a writer and a speaker, to really figure out who I am and what I wanted to do in this world. So I doubled down on all of these cool things like my well-being and running and working out and taking creative writing classes. And I actually, when I left Pfizer and had some time off, I put all these things in a hat, like clean out my closet and clean out my garage and go to the library and get a library card. And I started pulling them out of a hat. And if I felt like I wanted to do it, I'm like, today's the day I get a library card. And I just really figured out like who I was and what I wanted to be. All of that takes a lot of privilege, right? Like I had a privileged position to do this, but I worked and I saved. And that is a real undercurrent in the book. And a lot of people say, well, it's impossible for me to work and save. And I also cover that in the book as well, what it means to be truly bankrupt and have those choices. So something did flip in me when I gave myself the space to really become me. And I'm glad I did that because here I am today.
That's wonderful. Well, I hate to even think about the idea of ending this, but I want to end on this question here, and it's for both of you. What did this book teach you, either about yourself as a writer, Laurie, or a piece that Mary, you just can't end this without people knowing it? What did this book teach you while writing it, while reading it? And Mary, I'd love to start with you, and then we'll end with our.
Oh, you're going to start with me? Really? Really? Okay.
This is Laurie's event.
I know. So I think the biggest takeaway that I would say with this book is it's okay to not agree with everything. And there's great advice in this. And you're not going to agree with everything, and that's okay. But think about why you don't. And think about what it is that you are disagreeing with. And is it because you don't think it'll work for you, or is it because you're scared to try it? And so as you're reading through it, I mean, it can be a quick read or it can be a really slow read because you're going through it and you're taking notes and you're really thinking about it. If this is a book that you need today, and it probably is, if it's something that you gravitated towards, give yourself time with it and really ask yourself why you're reacting to it the way that you are. And I think that you'll learn an awful lot about yourself and what you need to do next.
Thank you, Mary. And
Mary.
for you, Laurie?
Mary's going to make me cry. That's amazing. Thank you. Well, I definitely learned that no person is an island. The act of writing a book is a solitary activity, but getting it out into the world and sharing the ideas, well, it happens through a team. And I'm someone who believes that team building is for suckers, right? I'm a cynic in this world. And yet I've worked with amazing men and women to really get the big ideas of this book out. And so I think I am surprised that even an old Gen X cynic can find beauty and joy in teams again, because it had been a long time for me. So no woman is an island, and all the good stuff in this world happens through relationships. That's what writing the book taught me.
I love hearing that. And you were talking, Mary, about how you were a history major in physics, and I'm a theater kid. And so for me, learning about collaboration is truly, that's how things are created. And so I love hearing that, because even though writing is by yourself, getting it out into the world is not. And and it means you got to have your board of directors, right, for your book, for your personal life. I'm sorry, I'm taking away from it. I love that.
Go for it. No, go for it.
It's amazing.
Build one now.
Right? It's true, and it's what you need. And so, but I want to thank you both for these lessons, for this time, for the advice that you've given as well. I would love it if you could take a minute to remind people who you are, where they can find you online, anything else you want to say before we close out. And again, Mary, I'm going to start with you and then end with
okay. So you can find me pretty much where on the internet, but if you want to get on Twitter and follow me, I talk about a lot of different things and comment on pretty much anything. I'm at mfaulkner43. Long story where that came from, but find me there, connect there, and you can find me on LinkedIn and everywhere else, but that's probably the quickest way to find me.
Thank you. Well, everybody, I'm so pleased and honored you spent some time with us tonight. If you haven't already bought the book, please buy it from Tattered Cover. It's really important to support these local bookstores. It's just amazing work they're doing, keeping us all educated, not depressed during a pandemic. So got to support your local bookstore. So thank you, Tattered Cover. And if you want to connect with me, I am everywhere. You can even Google I Hate HR and you will find me. But the best way is to go to punkrochr.com and you will fall into the ecosystem. And again, thank you so much for this wonderful evening. Thanks for the facilitation, and I hand it back to you.
Oh, thank you so much. And she stole my line, but that's very true, guys. Support your local independent bookstores, and you can get your copy of Betting on You at tatteredcover.com or at any of our 4 locations in the Denver metro area. We want to thank you guys again. Shopping local is a huge part of the economy right now. And, for some of you out there, it's dinner time right now. Maybe think about ordering takeout from a local mom and pop restaurant. Get your book online at tatteredcover.com. Support your local independent bookstore if you want to as well. We just can't thank you guys enough. The reason that we've been here for 50 years is because of you. So thank you guys for allowing us to have awesome author events like this one. And Mary and Laurie, if you'll stay on while I close this out here, I want to thank you guys again. Make sure to get your copies of Betting on You at tatteredcover.com or at any of our locations. And thank you again for joining us this evening. Check out our events at tatteredcover.com/events for upcoming virtual events like this one. Thank you again, everybody. Stay safe and happy reading. Bye, all.
Bye.
Bye.
And we're out.
Out.